Good evening, I'm Shane Jones. Leading the news at 7. The concessions local and foreign companies accessed under the Fiscal Incentives Act for the past 4 decades are no longer available. Government has repealed the legislation because it was not compliant with the country's obligations to the World Trade Organization. The act was used to stimulate manufacturing, create jobs, and bring in foreign reserves by attracting international companies. But some of its characteristics were in direct contravention with provisions of the WTO. Leader of Government Business in the Senate, Senator Dr. Jerome Walcott, made this point in support of the Fiscal Incentives Repeal Bill 2018.
The EU is concerned under their code of conduct in terms and the need to have tax good governance standards that not only in terms of the tax exemptions, but that the minister had sole discretion. And as far as they're concerned in terms of their tax good governance standards, that lacks transparency. That at the end of the process, the minister can determine who he's going to give it to, if he's going to give it to Senator Tate, or if he's going to give it to Senator Franklin.
Meanwhile, opposition Senator Crystal Drakes is asking what will replace the act. Now, she contends if the bill is to be repealed, something must be placed in its stead. She's suggesting the manufacturing sector should be engaged.
Now is a time that we can actually do a needs assessment in the manufacturing sector, because I believe it is a sector that has great potential. It can be successful. Yes, you have your hotel rooms and everything else, but when you have products, when you have a light manufacturing sector that you're actually selling to beauty firms, the demand for products like that is much more reliable than Barbados being sold as a tourist destination. There's a level of comfort in terms of a product versus a service in economies.
Government is being encouraged to consider merging Invest Barbados and the Barbados Investment and Development Corporation. This suggestion from Senator Lyndall Nurse. In his opinion, there's always been some uncertainty about what the two entities do. A merger, he says, would therefore increase efficiency in government.
I would like to suggest that now government is looking at reducing significantly its expenditure and at its attempts to make government much more efficient. This may be timely that you consider bringing these two entities back together. You could, and that certainly would provide an opportunity for reducing perhaps the amount of transfers that government has to make to those entities.
Listen to this. Random testing could be coming for public service vehicle operators. This from Transport and Works Minister Dr. William Duguid, who says it's all part of efforts to bring order back to our roads. Dr. Duguid was wrapping up debate in Parliament last evening on the Road Traffic Amendment Bill 2018. Now, he says there is serious concern that most mass casualty events involve either Transport Board buses or PSVs.
We're in discussions with the PSV owners. We've had 3 meetings with them. I wouldn't want to prejudice our discussions, but they too are prepared to work with us to bring order back to the roads. But there are certain things that we have to agree to before we can achieve that.
Well, the minister says they're also looking at the situation where the last administration issued more taxi permits than were licensed to be assigned. He says that has opened the government to the possibility of being sued, but Cabinet is working on a solution. The minister also says government intends to address abuse of the system.
This concept of fake taxis got to come to an end too. Because it cannot be that you are given a Z permit to have a taxi, but you never show any income from the use of that taxi on your tax. Now, if you are given a Z permit for a taxi, and then after 5 years you want duty-free concessions because you had a taxi, but you can't show anywhere on your income tax where you paid, where you had income from the taxi, we have to look at that again.
Public service vehicles are a critical part of the transportation sector, but they're not a law unto themselves. And this is why Minister of Energy and Water Resources Wilfred Abrams says they must follow the traffic laws. He's tired of them using the roads without care for other drivers.
I am fed up of seeing the PSVs stop in the middle of the road blocking traffic from passing. I am fed up of seeing the PSVs stop right on the corner of a road that you can't come out to block you from passing or block anybody else from getting on in front of them. These are choices. And we, for some reason, have accorded unto the reckless PSV drivers. I'm not talking about all, I'm addressing this now to the reckless ones, the lawbreakers. We have accorded unto them some degree of tolerance as if by right. That tolerance should be zero as well.
Now, continuing the debate on the amendment to the Road Traffic Act, Minister of Culture, Sports and the Creative Economy, John King, said traffic jams caused by long-haul vehicles need to be addressed. He believes the size of the roads on the islands poses a problem, and those types of vehicles need to be off the roads at certain times.
I would like to suggest, and humbly so, that we may want to look at restricting the times or putting some measure in place that would suggest that these types of vehicles use the road between certain hours, especially not in the hours that are peak time for people to be getting to work.
Meanwhile, Member of Parliament for St. Thomas, Cynthia Ford, is requesting a town hall meeting with Minister Duguid in an effort to improve public transportation in that parish. She's already drafted a 6-page letter to the minister outlining what she described as a horrific bus service in St. Thomas. On another topic, Ms. Ford, who's also the Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, says something needs to be done at the licensing authority. She believes the country is losing out on millions of dollars as a result of insufficient service.
What's the point in leaving your work, leaving your school or institution or wherever you are to go to renew your license, and then it is time to close off for lunch or people have to go to, and I agree, the workers must be treated well, they have to have their lunch. They too have their own children, so they have to run out. They have illnesses, they have to go to the doctor. But the way the place is managed is not user-friendly, and Barbadians are not comfortable going there. And then when you go, oh, the camera here at the Pine isn't working, go to Oistins. And when you go to Oistins, they had you go somewhere in St. James, or if it is still down in Folkestone, I don't even know, or St. Peter.
A man in his 50s has been taken to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital following a stabbing incident at President Kennedy Drive this morning. Police say they are investigating the incident, which occurred about 10:30 in the morning at a residence in Thomas Gap. 2 males were involved in a dispute during which one of them, a 54-year-old man, received stab wounds about his body. Another man, reported to be his relative, is assisting police with investigations into the matter. The University of the West Indies at Cave Hill has committed to offering the highest standard of academic excellence and professional service. This was part of the message from Pro Vice Chancellor and Principal Professor Eudine Barreto, who delivered to new and returning students during the 2018 postgraduate orientation session. She told them the UWI is there to advance their intellectual and professional growth.
And as your principal, I hold myself and my staff to that pledge. You are about to embark on an unforgettable academic expedition at a remarkable campus, one that offers far more than breathtaking vistas of the ocean, the city capital, and the surrounding countryside. I urge you to immerse yourself in as much campus life and as many co-curricular activities as your studies will permit.
Postgraduate students during the orientation were given insight into the do's and don'ts on the Cave Hill campus. Presentations were also made from Student Services, Campus IT Services, and Campus Security. Government will continue to sensitize Barbadians on certain chemicals. Minister of Environment and National Beautification Trevor Prescott says a national profile of chemicals management has been prepared. Barbados is also partnering with Canada to participate in the international monitoring of persistent organic pollutants. Government is also actively evaluating the feasibility of hosting a national emergency response training program. According to Mr. Prescott, the program will utilize the skills of personnel who've received training with the Organization for the Proliferation of Chemical Weapons. He made the revelation as he addressed a planning meeting of the capacity building project on chemical emergency response planning and management for CARICOM at the Radisson Aquatica.
Preliminary discussions with the stakeholders have already been conducted. Additionally, this workshop will bring us one step closer to finalizing our national chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear emergency plan, which is expected to outline procedures for the response to emergencies involving chemical weapons, agents, and other industrial chemicals used within the manufacturing sector.
Now, Minister Prescott would like to see the re-establishment of the regional response team set up to manage any chemical hazards.
As a region, we encourage the international community to further support the re-establishment of that team with the view to develop and resource a regional chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear plan which can function to provide technical advice and advance our response capability to these hazards.
The United Kingdom, through its chemical arms control of the Ministry of Defense, has worked with and supported many countries in the region. Clive Rowland says Britain looks forward to constructive engagement in the run-up to the November Conference on Chemical Weapons Convention.
All countries here today are urged to come together in support of the global consensus on strengthening the taboo against chemical weapon use. Doing nothing is not a credible option. A vital global norm is under threat, endangering everyone's security. We cannot countenance the prospect that our children will see the use of chemical weapons as normal. The international community has now committed to coming together to address the issue. Let's focus on this.
Well, with the start of the new school term around the corner, the Salvation Army, along with Corporate Barbados, is helping to offset the costs for Barbadian families. CIBC First Caribbean has provided 70 vouchers for distribution to needy families. The donation was made at the Salvation Army's Reed Street Bridgetown headquarters. 80 families have benefited through the organization's 2018 back-to-school program. Divisional Business Manager Sherma Evelyn says the assistance was for those deemed most in need.
The Salvation Army across this island have always opened their hands to persons who are most in need. And we partner with many persons, corporate and government, to meet those needs as much as we can. And we are grateful, very grateful, for CIBC to come on board with us for our back to school.
Associate Director of Card Issuing, Sales and Portfolio Management, Jennifer Fuller, says they appreciate the efforts made by the Salvation Army.
CIBC First Caribbean chose the Salvation Army because, in a sense, we are already partners. So the Salvation Army happens to be one of the approved charities that benefit from our rewards points for our for our gold and our baseline customers. So essentially, any of our customers with any of those accounts can donate their rewards points to the Salvation Army on a regional front.
In Guyana, a 26-year-old woman was arrested after stabbing her 3-year-old son to death over the weekend. The mother reportedly told police she had a dream she was going to die and wanted to take her favorite son with her.
The woman was arrested by police after her 3-year-old son, Ramdale Ferreira, was found in a pool of blood on Saturday morning on a bed at their Fowles East Coast Demerara home. He was rushed to the Georgetown Public Hospital where he died while receiving treatment. A post-mortem conducted on Monday found that he died from a stab wound to the heart. His grandmother, Tulsi Day Hussain, on Monday told the media that her grandson was expected to start school in another week.
Saturday about 9:30, a little boy come here bicycle and give me a message said that Brenda bore up one of the little boy and let me go. Well, when before me meet at the bridge, I see the police van, the police jeep, carry she away, and the child. Well, when me go around by the house side there, then the people then tell me said that how we bore the child.
The incident was witnessed by Ferreira's 4-year-old brother. Hussain related that the 26-year-old woman has been living with her son for approximately 5 years. She said her daughter-in-law developed a habit of drinking and began neglecting her 2 children. Though Hussain said she attempted to counsel the woman on several occasions, she's unaware of what sparked the habit.
My son tell me he should follow the liquor.
Did he say if he ever tried to talk to her so about it?
Where we go talk to she too.
In Belize, a woman was shot 5 times following an altercation that started in a restaurant. The woman was riding her bike over the weekend when she got into an argument with a man who was in the establishment. She was shot in the chest 4 times and once in the leg.
While the bullets were intended to take Parshu's life, they didn't stop her at this intersection. She continued on her bike until she got to her family's house a few yards down the street. Parshu's aunt told us that her niece went to pick up some money and was on her way back when she was attacked. They say that she is well known in the neighborhood and have no idea why someone would try to kill her.
I always said that I'm going to get money, pick up our money, and he gone on a bike. He get shot way up, so I ride from up, so come away, yeah. She didn't tell me much about what happened, or if it was an argument or something. I don't really know.
Would you, or can you even begin to imagine why someone would want to shoot, your niece? Did she have any problems? Was she being threatened? Anything at all that would see something like this happen?
Well, no, tell me about no threat.
Jamaica may be forced to ban the entry of certain types of dogs. Minister of Agriculture Audley Shaw says the government may make that decision to prevent people from being mauled by certain breeds. We have a report from TVJ.
It's often said that dogs are a man's best friend, but they can also be man's worst enemy. Last month, the nation was rocked by news that a senior citizen died after being severely bitten by a vicious set of dogs. He is a 66-year-old Whittington Cole of Hampton Green, Spanish Town, St. Catherine.
This can't be allowed to continue. It's unacceptable.
So Agriculture Minister Audley Shaw had this message.
I want to start by saying to all owners of dogs, whether they are pit bulls or Rottweilers or any other type of dogs, please, for God's sake, take responsibility for your animals. Because if those animals are loose and they are aggressive, and little children are out there, little 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 10-year-old children, my little girl is 9 years old, are out there and the dogs attack them, there's no help for these kids. It is dangerous and it is irresponsible for any dog owner to allow these dangerous dogs to be loose and not protecting the communities.
Under the Dogs Liability for Injuries Act, a dog owner is responsible for any injury caused by the animal. The challenge sometimes, however, is identifying who the dogs belong to.
Conch poisoning cases are trending downwards in the Bahamas. Consumers have been urged to play an active role in demanding that conch is washed in fresh water before it's eaten raw.
go ahead and enjoy your Scotch conch or your conch salad. Just make sure you wash it in water. That simple.
Based on the numbers, it looks like more and more people preparing raw conch are following that advice, with SANS telling reporters that there has been a steep decline in the number of cases of conch poisoning.
We have been fortunate to watch a dramatic reduction in the total number of cases, but we did have another case last week.
That's a significant drop when compared to earlier this month, when the Ministry of Health confirmed at least 45 cases of conch poisoning. At that time, the health minister says there were an additional 9 cases being evaluated. The source of the questionable conch was believed to be Potter's Key Dock, with several cases stemming from conch consumed at the popular fish market. Further speculation led to questions over whether a wastewater treatment facility near Potter's Key contributed to the prevalence of the tainted conch. SANS says that claim lacks credibility for now.
No, we do not have any conclusive nexus between what is happening at Malcolm Park and what is happening with the bloom of Vibrio. So while we pay attention to all of the things that are happening, we do not believe at this time that there's a connection between any of the excavation works in the harbor and what's happening with the Vibrio.
The Vibrio parahemolyticus bacteria, which causes conch poisoning, thrives in saltwater conditions. It is believed that a common practice among conch vendors of washing conch in salt water contributed to the high numbers of raw conch consumers becoming ill. The first 5 cases were reported in early July, with that number climbing rapidly over the next 4 weeks.
Across the Caribbean, brought to you by CIBC First Caribbean.
A glimpse into the world of sports is just ahead, but before we get there, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
After a hurricane, do not use your car unnecessarily, as this should help to conserve gasoline. Cooperators General Insurance, helping you to be prepared this hurricane season.